the 100th anniversary edition, the Holy Bible, the 1611 King James Version. And the people whom we are debating wanted to base much of what we say and teach on the King James Version, bearing the Apocrypha books as being inspired of God, just as the 66 books of the Bible. I want to just say something about this. I went through it very carefully. And interestingly, the Apocrypha is in the Bible, but it's not of the Bible. Is in the Bible, but it's not of the Bible. And I want to
If you ever wondered, have you ever had a notion in your comic book reading ass mind, what would happen if ever, by chance, you heard a legend, Legends of the Street? That's a walking legend right there. Legendary. They whisper about him in corners. They whisper about him. Have you heard? They pass, well, have you heard? Devastation is about to take place. Have you heard about this guy? Well, he's here. You get to see what they've been whispering about in corners. We're about to break bread and eat.
No trans here, nigga. I gotta keep it soulful.
Yeah, shalom everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to King James Bible University Precept Mastery. And today we're going to be going through a pretty interesting teaching today. We've been having here for quite some time. We always have where the book of Jasher always been in question. And one of the reasons why I want to really address it in a different way today is where we can put a lot of this stuff to bed, to where we won't have this issue anymore. And what I want to understand is, why do people sit there and they go through the Bible as it is, and King James have already gathered all the books together that's supposed to be there and what we should be seeing here and what we should be understanding? Why is it to where once we get to this, why is it to where we always want to add something more to the Bible? Why do we do this? I really don't know. I try to figure it out. I try to understand why we do this, but we'll sit there and we add like the book of Jasher, we add the book of Jubilees, we add the book of Enoch. We keep adding other books, and then they start going to the book of Adam and Eve, and I'm talking about it just keep adding and adding and adding, and it makes absolutely no sense to where you'll come to a point and you'll come to an understanding where it actually makes absolutely no sense. It'll make absolutely no sense once you end up doing this. Because once you start doing these things, you'll start finding out to where you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a false doctrine, to a hardcore false doctrine. And this is one of the books. This is Jasher. You'll see it in many books. You'll see many people hold to what Jasher says. And the main thing is, it's a false book. But the better yet, besides just telling you it's false, it's easier for me to show it to you in the Bible. And this is where we can separate the sheep from the goats. It's the easiest way to do it. So just to get an understanding, and just so we can understand exactly where everybody can be on the same page, we have some people who actually engaged in this book, and we have a lot of people who engaged in this book because they truly thought that they was looking for the truth. They was looking and they thought they found the truth. In that book of Jasher, it just wasn't one of them. So we have an issue. So the same thing is, I want to take a quick poll right quick, and we don't need people, and I'm just going to say, one second. Put in the wrong place. 1 second. There we go. So I'm going to ask the question, and we don't need people to know it outright, so we're just going to put it there. And I'm asking the question, how many read the book of Jasher? How many read the book? To where we can come to a pretty good understanding on what's going on. And it's not a thing to where people who have read it, because they truly is seeking truth, but we want to just understand exactly what was going on here. And I do know a lot of people, they buy them, they do different things, and they make it look truly authentic based on what it is, but you can find the falsities in it based in the contents within the book itself. Now, the problem is most people don't know what to look for, and that's something that shouldn't be on you, but it should always rely on the person that's teaching you, calling themselves teaching you the Bible. They should have been able to catch this. So I don't really hold this to people to where people didn't know. So it's something people who didn't know, they shouldn't. I get that. But the ones who's teaching you the Bible is the ones who should have caught it and should have been able to bring it to you forward and letting you know that the book was false. That's what they should have been able to do based on the way it was written, based on the language, based on everything that you see in the Bible. You can find out what was there, because even in the book of Jasher, you can see where it was back even during the times a little bit past Moses, and you can see where Jasher comes up. But once it comes up, you should be able to see that. But the main thing is, it started using 18th and 19th century words, which wasn't there or even developed for the English language or even in the Hebrew language back then. But they should have been able to catch this, because most people will tell you that they read, write, speak Hebrew. They do everything Hebrew. But then when it comes time to these type of valid points to what they need to know something, and then they need to tell God's people, all of a sudden they don't know anything. All of a sudden they've called this a valid book. I'm getting ready to end the poll, and so if you want to make sure you vote, you need to vote now, because I'm getting ready to end the poll right now, and this poll is ended. So right now we have 75% of the people have not read the book of Jasher, but 24% have. So the good thing is, but the 75%, I'm pretty sure might have heard of the book of Jasher and might have heard people speak about it, but the 75% that didn't read it, that's a good thing. And they might just didn't want to invest the money in it. But then we had the 24% people that did read it. And that's still not a bad thing, but that's showing you where the craziness can come in at based on what was written in that book. So we need to understand a few things. We'll also be going to the chalkboard also later to where we can understand exactly what is going on. So I want you to stay with me. I want you to understand what's going on. I want you to sit there and look at this, because this is a class that we're going to be running through to show you falsities that is in the book, to give you some understanding on Hebrew actual words in the Bible, to show you the falsities that people teach, because so many people go out and about and they go through all these different places. They go to camps and go to Christian institutions. They go to all these places and say that they speak, read, talk Hebrew. They do all these things. But then when you get to simplest things and understanding of Hebrew and understand the translations, so they can go back and they can get the same type of books. They can go into Paleo Hebrew. They can go into these things, and then they can translate it. And then they call these real books. Should be fair enough to where most people should count them as a liar all the way through, but it's not the truth. People still hold on to them and say, well, they wasn't told truthful here, but they cool here, and you hold them. But once they already gave you falsities, you shouldn't even trust them, because that's your life that you putting on the line, that you holding to this person. Everybody understand where I'm coming from? I just want to make sure everybody understand where I'm coming from. This is why a lot of times I come off really blunt. Sometimes I come off really dislike, because I'm very upfront to you. But my thing is, you should have the same attitude. You shouldn't be wanting to play or have somebody playing with your life, because that's what they're doing. They playing with your life. They playing with your lifestyle. They playing with your salvation. And some people will sit there and let that happen. I'm just not one of them. So I'm not sitting here because I don't want nobody to lie to me, and you shouldn't want nobody to lie to you. That's the catch on what we want to do, and that's why I want you to understand where we stand at. That's why I let you know where I'm standing all the time. So what we want to understand is this. We want to look at the book. We want to look at books. And I'm going to give you some understanding before we get all down into it and get into all the nit and grit on what we need to know. But I want to make sure, again, same thing when we come over here to King James Bible University, is exactly what it is. It's King James Bible University. It's here where it's a place of learning and where you need pencils and paper to where you can document this information, to go back in and research this information that I give you, because even me being a man, do not trust what I say until you research it yourself, to where you can sit there and see in the scriptures yourself, you see exactly the same thing or you see contrary to it, then you can count me as a liar. But if you see the same thing that I'm saying, then I was telling you the truth. This is what I'm saying. I don't sit here and come here to profess myself, to sit there and say everything going to come out of my mouth is the truth. You don't need to go look this up. No, everything that comes out of my mouth, you need to check it. You need to be a workman yourself to show yourself approved of God. So the same as I'm doing, the same as you do. So the same thing is, all I'm here to do is tell you what time it is and tell you what's going on, to show you what needs to be happening. So books, I want you to understand something about books. I want you to write it down and make sure that we get this, because books is like it's the fundamentals. It's the meaning of recording. So a book is something of the fundamentals of recording information. It records knowledge. It records ideas. It's the essential tool that enables men to document even their experiences. They express their thoughts. They can communicate across many spaces of things. These books are records in past and present that's providing valuable insight in the histories, cultures, and society. Everybody get that? Because I'm gonna keep digging deeper as we go. But I just want to make sure we being transparent on both sides. I'm being here to where you being there, where you are in your own home. I want to make sure we understand each other as we move forward, because we got to understand what a book is. We got to understand what a book is. And what we got to remember is this, that the books plays a significant role in preserving and disseminating information. It even goes from the ancient scrolls to the modern, even in today's books. That's what this is doing. That's what goes on. That's what this is happening. So the same thing is, some people didn't get the first time, and I don't mean to talk fast, but it's just a problem I have. And it'd be better if I write down what I say, because then I have to slow down and read. But the main thing is this. Books are your fundamentals. This the fundamentals of recording information for knowledge and ideas. That's what's going on. So it's one of the essential tools that enables people, men and women, their experiences. They can express their thoughts. They can communicate across times and space. These books are records in past, present, providing these things. These are valuable insights into history and culture and society. That's what this is. That's what's going on here. This is why we do this. So books can play this significant role where we can sit there and we can preserve information by disseminating information from ancient scrolls up into modern times, even where you see today, where they're doing them in ebooks today. So books become a valuable source of information, to where it can have you a historical information. It allows you to learn a past and understand how society have evolved over time. They offer insights on political, social, cultural factors that have shaped this human history that we see today, that we live in verily today. These historical records is critical for understanding the present and making these things informed decisions about the future. So this is what we're doing. So books, they provide the records of significant events of people, helping us to reflect on the past, and we learn from the past and we learn how to correct them today. That's what we do here. That's what a book is. That's what a book holds to. And books also is a knowledge of knowledge, and it's holding the documentation to where you can discover information. And then some people even do these discoveries with theories, which makes no sense, but they'll do these theories. And that's why you got these scientists, these philosophers, and these theologians. This is what's happening when you do books. This is what you deal with when you're dealing with books. So they provide the information where now they disseminating information, ideas, promoting the learning, these ancient works. And you see people even like Aristotle, you see people like Plato, these people who write these books, and they based on theology, they based on nonsense, but people will hold to them. Books are the essential things for study, for research. They serve in reference and materials to guide you and students for others. This is what's happening here. So when you're looking at the records, which is our books, but we're going to look at records, because I might be saying records more so that you hear what I'm saying a lot of times, but you might hear me saying records more so than books, but it's the culture. It's reflecting the values, the beliefs, traditions of society. Those are the records. I want you to stay with me on this and understand what's going on. So they mean in preserving cultural heritage and ensuring that in the past and future generations. So that's the purpose of the book. That's the purpose of the records. Everybody with me? I want to make sure everybody with me. I want to make sure before I move forward, and some people can catch up, because I do apologize, because sometimes I know I speak fast, but I'm trying to slow down, and I need to write out more stuff besides trying to talk off my head. So my apologies there, but I don't mean to do that. That's something I don't mean to do, but that's one of the things we do. So I see everybody understanding what's going on here. So as long as everybody get what's going on, I want to make sure everybody get and understand. And the other part is, again, I know I might speak a little bit fast when I'm talking, and one of my biggest issues is when I'm talking about something that I really am adamant on and something that I'm pushing. Sometimes I will tend to talk fast. I'm not doing it based on trying not for you to get it, but I do it based on I just talk fast. And I don't think I talk fast, but people say I talk fast, so I talk fast because people tell me all the time. But I don't think I do. But since I don't think I do, my what I think I do is not. Mine don't matter. It's what people think. So if people say I talk fast, then I talk fast. It's not an excuse for it. So I just ask you to bear with me, and then just go down, and then I'm periodically always looking in the chat. So right now, especially, so if I'm talking fast, just put in there, hey, you're talking a little bit fast. Just let me know. And then the moderators might take it out, but I can catch it in time and just let them know. Or the moderators can let me know. If they see it enough time, they'll let me know. And then they'll just say, hey, slow down, and I'm good. But the main thing is we were looking at records. We're looking at records, and the records is talking about the books, and we're looking at these books. It's reflecting on values, beliefs, traditions, and society. And the means of those is preserving cultural heritage, and it is ensuring that the past is the past, and it passed on to future generations. So through books, we can learn the different cultures, religions that you see people that's doing, but we want to understand the worldview, because you have some people who are going to do culture, you're going to have other people doing religions. They provide records of cultural practices, and which is an essential part of this human identity that you see that's being expressed today. So that's what we're looking at, but we want to hold on to what books are understanding. We want to understand that for itself, within itself. So that's what we want to understand. Now, let's move forward a little bit, and we're going to see something. Let's move forward a little bit, and we're going to look at something. And we're going to go over here. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 34. But I want to take you right here, particularly to Isaiah 34:16. And I see it's not highlighted. So let me take this, and I know I'm going to end up having to do each one. And we're going to look at this one there. We're going to look at this one here. And we're going to tear this down a little bit, and we're going to see how this goes on. And it says, seek ye out of the book. You see that's singular. It's not plural, but it's singular. It says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord. And it says, and read. And so we know this Lord is the Spirit of God, and it's telling us to read this. But this is a commandment. It's not asking, it's commanding us to do this. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. It says, no one of these. These is talking about now it done went plural, and it's not singular. It done went plural, and it done went singular. So this is the thing. This is why we sitting there seeing what's going on. And the same thing is, I don't need this person talking about, can the moderators write the meaning of the books? No, we're not sitting there asking you to start doing all these other little questions. But the main thing, what we're trying to do, we're trying to make sure that everything that's going in there. So seek ye out of the book and read. No one of these should fail, and none should want her mate. So this is what we got to understand. So seek ye out of this book. So we got to seek out these records within this book. So we got to seek out the records. And it says, seek out the records of the Spirit of God and read, and no one of these shall fail, and none shall want her made. For out of my mouth have I commanded, and his Spirit hath he gathered them. So we see how this is working. We see how this is working out. We see how this goes. And when we understand that, we can understand this, the book. Now we want to understand a couple of things. So we see in this book as a record. So this record, we're looking at this as an instrument, and you'll see this even used in courts and laws and different things like that. They'll refer to things many times as instruments when they're talking about documentation and different things like that. And it's the same thing. Where they got it from is from God, because when it's telling you something, and we're going to look at this again, when we see this in Matthew chapter 11, verse 29, he says, take my yoke. He's talking about an instrument. And I want to show you that where he's telling you this here. He's telling you this right here. In this one here is doing the same thing. I'm going to end up having to do them all. So we're going to sit there and see here. And it's telling you, it says, take my yoke upon you and learn. Those books that he's telling you about over there. So we got to take this yoke. We got to take this instrument. This instrument is what it's doing. So we're putting this instrument upon us. Keep that in mind. So it says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord. So we got to take that instrument that he has, and we got to take it upon us, and we have to learn of him. So we have to take that instrument and learn of him, and we're doing that with the records that he is providing us. Everybody with me there? I want to make sure everybody with me and where we're understanding what's going on. So let's get this as we're getting ready to move down, because we're going to keep moving as we keep knowing and understanding what's going on. We're going to keep moving as we keep understanding what's going on. So far we got a couple. Once I get about 10, I'm going to keep moving forward. It's that simple. So we got people, they understand what's happening. So now we understand what's going on. So now he's telling you right up front, he says, take my yoke. So we're going to take this instrument, this book. We taking this book is what he's saying. Take this book upon you and learn of me. He says, I am meek, lonely in heart, and ye shall find rest for your souls. So in this instrument that we're going to use, which is that book, we're going to learn of him. You see how he's working this. So this yoke is easy, and then no workman who's using this instrument should ever feel that they need to be ashamed, because they rightly dividing the word of truth. And this book, this was written, and this book is written by many, many prophets. This is how we got to do it, and we're looking at God, and they're saying being taught of God. So this instrument, they was taught of God, and this is the instrument that we have to yoke upon us. Everybody with me? I want to make sure you stay with me on this. We're going to look at this, and we're going to drive down a little bit more. We're going to go over here to John chapter 6, but we're going to look at verse 45. Actually, let me do this real quick. We're going to look at verse 45, and we're going to drive a little bit further. But we want to understand what's going on. It says, it is written in the prophets. So each one of these prophets has written these books, which are the instruments to where we can learn more of God. And it says, and they shall be taught of God. You see, it's taught of God. And it says, every man for that reason have heard and have learned, you see, have learned of the Father cometh unto me. So once you use that instrument, this is how you're going to learn. We're going to keep moving closer and closer and closer. Because we're going to find out about this Jasher. Jasher will probably shock you, but we're going to find out. But the main thing is, my wife complained, but hey, that's my babe. She said she don't like me going around the corner, but sometimes you got to go take you around the corner so where you can completely have a better understanding. So I get it. I get where she's coming from, but my thing is everybody won't get it just if you just blurt it out and show them. I want you to go the long way to where you can understand exactly where the meat is and understand it from the beginning to the end. You see the process on what he was doing. That's why I do that. So we understand this here, and we see that if we're going to learn of the Father, we need to dwell in the books that he authored. It's telling you right there, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. None one of these shall fail, and none shall want or made, for out of his mouth has he commanded, his spirit has he gathered them. So this is the same instrument that we take on. And since we don't know that, he tells us more so when we look at Sirach chapter 51, but we're going to take this, look over here in verse 23. We're going to take this and we're going to look at this a little bit closer. We got to look at this a little bit closer. It says, draw near unto me, ye unlearned, and dwell in the house of the learning. So he's telling us exactly what we need to do. We need to dwell in this house of the learning. Understand what's going on. But I want to take you somewhere. I want to make sure we understand something. I want to take you somewhere. Make sure we understand something. We're going to look at this in Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. Malachi 3, but I want to take you to verse 16. And get a better understanding of what's going on. And he says, then they that fear, them that desire the Spirit of God have often one to another. including the Spirit of the Lord, hearken and heard it in the book of remembrance. So we got to make sure you write this down. It's a book of remembrance. We're going to find out a lot of information about this book. So it's a book of remembrance. It says, was written before in the presence of him for them that desired the Spirit of God, and they thought upon his way. You see how this is working out? I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. It says, and they that desired the Spirit of God has often one to another, and the Spirit of God hearkened and heard it, including a book, a record of remembrance. So this record of remembrance was written. This record of remembrance was written in the presence of him for them that feared, that desired the Spirit of God, and thought upon his way. You see how this is working out? This is all clear as day. But we want to understand this book of remembrance is the desire that we need to look upon. So what this talking about is something where you need to be upright and righteous, because you got to be upright and righteous. Write that down, upright and righteous. Well, I want you to write that one down also. So it's saying there, so the people who fear this, they're looking to be upright, they're looking to be righteous. So make sure we all get this. We're going to take this all together. So when you're doing this and you desire, so if you desire, you're looking to be upright and you're looking to be righteous. And I want my moderator, if you could please add that in there for me. Just put that, if you're looking to desire the Spirit of God, you're looking to be upright, you're looking to be righteous. That's what you're looking for, because that's the only way you can learn them. You got to learn them through the book of remembrance, which is the records that you're looking for. So we need those records to understand how to do that. Those records, we need to understand how to do that. That's the purpose. And as we go through this, the book of remembrance is understood the records of the word in action, those who desire the Creator to remember his way. So the way is the book and is kept in heaven, and we seek the same thing we try to seek on earth. So the book of remembrance is associated with his doctrines and teachings. It has to be that the righteous and the upright will be remembered and rewarded, while the wicked is forgotten and punished. That's the purpose of this. That was the purpose of this, these records. So this is not an idea. This is not nowhere close to an idea, but it's a statement. And actually it's a statement. Actually, I want to tell you what, let's go over here real quick. Let's look at something in Psalms. I want to show you in Psalms, because I'm showing you a statement. Psalm 69, and we're going to go to verse 28. We're going to look at verse 28. And look at this. And this is why I was even saying that. It says, let them be blotted out of the book of the living, which is the book of remembrance, and not be written with the righteous. You see, that's why I was using the righteous, because you got to be upright, we got to be righteous. So, because they're not going to go in the book of the righteous. They're not going to look in the book of remembrance. They're not going to look in the records. They're going to sit there and go on catchphrase. They're going to go on what other people say. They're going to say, they're going to use stuff that other people talk about, which makes no sense. So we got to sit there and make sure when you're looking for the book of remembrance, it serves as a reminder for the believers, and the important words that these words is actions. So it's recording the deeds of the righteous. So this book encourages others to follow the examples and to live a life that is pleasing to God. That's the point of the book of remembrance. So we can see the examples in there. We can understand it. Everybody with me? I want to make sure as we go down through here, we get it as we go through. Because overall, the book of remembrance is 100%, 100% is spiritual. And it used to emphasize the importance of righteousness. That's what it's used for. And it rewards to come to life according to God's will. And it's a reminder that God is aware of the actions of his followers, and the deeds are not forgotten from God. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of this. That's why we go through what we go through. That's why we understand what we understand. See, in these books that you see in the King James Bible, and I don't need to say to include the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha should already been in there in the books that you already have. But the books, and then it's telling you the King James Bible, these are the records, these are the testament, and the diversity of the riches for your human experience. That's what they are. They mainly other books and records in the past, present, preserving and disseminating information of knowledge and culture. This and other means to documenting history, to understanding the present and shaping the future, good or bad. So your future going to either be good or bad. So they are valuable sources, and some others who use the Bible is trash. And you see others who will sit there and they'll try to find other books and try to find other things because they seek and think, and they think they'll find something that is better learning, better understanding, better something, which makes no sense. So the knowledge means promoting those books for learning and research. And they're the records of the cultural heritage, which is the essential of understanding. Overall, books or records are the testament and power of human language. We've been harping on this for a while. We've been getting in this for a while. We've been talking about this for a while. We got to stay on language. This is why I'm pushing this a lot more, because we don't have time to be playing games. So it's the power of the human language. It's important of preserving and sharing our collective experience, which was spoken about in the book of Jasher. It was spoken about that in the book of Jasher. Why not was this part of the Bible? Why wasn't this not part of the Bible? I want to see something which it states it here. I want to show you somewhere, and it states it clearly here. We got to go and find this in the book of Joshua. We're going to look at Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. We're going to start nailing a lot of this down. 10, but we're going to look at verse 13. I want you to start understanding something. I want to make sure that you keep this clear with you. In 10:13, it says this. It says this, and it's clear. It says, the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? It's not this written in the book of Jasher. That's the key, what we need to understand. They avenged themselves is not this in the book of Jasher. They avenged themselves is not this in the book of Jasher. They avenged themselves is not this in the book of Jasher. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about the whole day. You see right here, this is all understanding here. So I want you to write this down, make sure we get it, make sure we understand it. I want to make sure we get all these things together. And just as I said, hopefully I'm not talking too fast. And that's one of the biggest problems when you're versed on something, you just talk and running my mouth and need to slow down. So that's why I'm kind of pausing myself. I want to catch myself. But we want to understand a couple of things in here. We want to understand a couple of things with this Jasher here. We want to understand a couple of things in Joshua here. So I want you to write this down in sun. Sun, we want to find out what it means. It means light by day of knowledge and understanding. I want you to keep that in mind, write that down. Light by day of knowledge and understanding. But you can put light by day, comma, or you can put knowledge and understanding. You can put that there if you want to, and you can use it for that. But I want to make sure you get that down. So that's what sun means. We want to understand what sun, S-U-N, light by day of knowledge and understanding. So, and it stood saying sun is often used as a parable. It's used as a parable because we got to look at the parable, we got to look at the similitude, because it represents various spiritual understandings of God's righteousness and the upright being enlightened. So this is being used as a parable. Everybody getting what's going on. So actually, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to be running some examples. Better yet, we're going to run examples as we do it. So, and we're going to look at this in Psalms chapter 84. And we'll look at verse 11. 84 verse 11. We're going to look at something. You see it here. It says, in the Spirit of God is a sun, including Sheol. Exactly what it was saying, that is knowledge and understanding. So he's using himself as a similitude. It says the Spirit of God will give his grace and glory, not good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. You see how he's saying that? He will who those who will walk uprightly. So it's no good thing to withhold from them that's walking uprightly, showing that God is representing the Son right now. So he said he's representing himself as the Son, and it's protection of those who follow him. Everybody with that? I want to make sure everybody understands this as we move forward. I want to make sure you understand what I'm talking about as I move forward, because he's using himself as a similitude as the Son. This is what he's doing. He's using himself as a similitude as the Son. He's using himself as a similitude as the Son. That's what he's doing here. And we're going to get a little bit more. Let's go over here. We're going to look at something in Malachi. We're going to use something in Malachi, and we're going to go down again a little bit more. We're going to look at chapter 4 and verse 2. We're going to see what he says here. It says, but unto you that desire my way, you see this? But unto you that desire my way shall the Son of righteousness arise with healing of his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as the calves of the stall. Beautiful way he's putting this. These are similitudes. Similitudes of righteousness and purity. Righteousness arises from the healing of the wings. So the sun is used again as a similitude of enlightenment for understanding. This is how he runs this. This is how this is run. This is how this continually goes. Let's look at one more example. We want to put one more example just to make sure we all be on the same page. And we're going to see this over here in Psalms chapter 19. And we're going to pick this one up right here in verse 4. And we're going to see that it says, their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words at the end of the earth. In them have set a tabernacle for the sun. So them set a tabernacle for the sun. But I want to show you what's going on here. Let's look at verse 5. It says, which is comparing, everybody with me, which is comparing a bridegroom as a Holy Spirit. So it's comparing a Holy Spirit, a separated body. So it's comparing a separated body out of his chamber, and rejoice, comparing a strong man to run a race. You see how this is going? You see how this is going? This is going a whole nother way. But watch what happened. We're going to look at verse 6 and get a complete understanding on what he's talking about here. It says, his going forth is from the end of the heavens, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. So from the heat thereof, it's talking about something that we need to understand, because this bridegroom, overall, this power of similitude, talking about the righteous, the enlightenment, serves as a symbol of power, glory, wisdom of God, which encourages the believer to strive for this spiritual understanding and enlightenment. Understand what this is talking about. Understand what's going on here. But you got to remember what he said. He said this, the sun stood still. So we got the same thing. It says including the moon. But we want to understand what the moon is. We need to understand moon. Moon, moon, moon. What is the moon? Moon is wanderers. Moon means wanderers. Wanderers. So we want to understand that as a foundation of the way we can move forward. The moon is wanderers. And with this moon of wandering in the KJV, we understand that the moon is wanderers, is a similitude, it represent these very variable spiritual understandings, including the church as a body, which is the law of the spiritual state of mankind. So it's the same thing you see in this example. I'm going to show you one, and it might be a little bit complex, but we should be okay on it. In the Songs of Solomon, chapter 6, but we're going to look at verse 10. We're going to look at verse 10. It's going to tell us something, make sure we clearly get it. It says, who is she that looketh forth, comparing the morning fair as the moon, as the wanderer? Who's going to compare this fair, this fair? Who's going to compare this wanderer? Like comparing this fair as the moon, this wanderer. It says clear as the sun, comparing the sun. This clear comparing sun. It says and terrible as an army of banners. Wow. You see how this flipped over a whole different way. So what we got to look at, we got to understand one thing. So when we see this, we got to pay one close attention to one thing, because it's talking about fair. Fair. We got to look at it and understand what does fair, because fair is talking about in the morning, it's saying this fair, this pure as the moon. But you're a wanderer. Pure as the moon. Fair, talking about pure as the moon. The moon is used as a similitude that you see like in the law. Meaning this. Let's look at it a little bit more. Let's go a little bit deeper here. Let's go a little bit deeper. We're going to find this in Psalms, and we're going to look at chapter 89. Psalms chapter 89, we're going to pick this up at verse 37. And 37 is going to make a couple of things. They're going to clear some things for us, something that we even need to meditate on. It says, it shall be established forever, comparing the moon, including comparing a faithful witness in heaven. Yes, a lot. Something you need to meditate on. Why is that? Today, these things we try to establish the moon as the wanderers, including the faithful in heaven. So the ones who's being faithful, we're trying to compare them. These is cast off with these doctrines, that they hate the doctrines of God, but they believe that they're enlightened, but they're not enlightened. Avoiding the covenant. The moon is used as a similitude to the spiritual state of mankind, wandering even in many days. Let me go a little bit closer. Let me go a little bit closer. We're going to look at something. Let's move a little bit closer. We're going to find this in Isaiah chapter 19. Isaiah 19. We're going to get a little bit closer to understand right where I'm coming from. And it's going to tell us, it says the sun, so we know the sun, you see how this is running. The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. Shall this wanderer give light unto you? Shall the moon give understanding to you? Should it give light unto thee? It says, but the Spirit of God shall be unto thee an everlasting light in thy God and thy glory. Interesting. Let's look at verse 20. But you see a lot of us doing this. It says, thy sun shall be no more go down, so the light should no more go down, neither shall the moon withdraw thyself, for the Spirit of God shall be thy everlasting light, in thy days of mourning shall be the end. So a lot of us, this is going to happen to a lot of us, because the sun is light by day, the knowledge and understanding. Even the moon, the wanderers, is giving their doctrines and understanding anymore. So they're not going to be doing it anymore, but most of it going to get lost. Most of it going to die based on this alone. Based on this alone. I promise you this, because we got a lot of people even here. I promise you the end to other books. I promise you this. And the main thing is the Bible contains wealth of historical information, including when we look at the histories of creation of the world. In the early history, you see the Jews, and then these Jews and had the life and salvation of the anointed way. See, these stories serves as records, the records that we're looking at, and they are significant events and figures that have shaped the faiths of our lives of the followers of Christ. So this, in addition with the historical records of the Bible, contain numerous teachings, doctrines, and they form the foundation of us. This is what they have done. So once they form this foundation of us, these teachings include ethical and moral principles, the instructions of living the righteous and various lives. So the Bible serves as a record, this teaching that's providing us the framework for believers and following and shaping the way that we should understand and how we should even be approaching the world. This is things we should be doing. It serves as a record that contains numerous examples that's in this Bible. Personal transformation and redemption. Many of the stories that's teaching in this Bible describes individuals who's experienced significant changes even in their lives, either through encountering the Word of God or through interactions with others. But these stories serves as records in its transformational power of faith. Had the potential for a person to grow and change. That's the purpose of these records. See, and it's another way that the Bible serves as a book of records, and it's through its prophecies. It's going to always be through prophecies, and the Bible contains numerous examples of prophetic writings, which it predicts the future and in the comings. These prophecies serve as records in the hopes and expectation, which is the followers of Christ's faith, providing the insight on these things and believers to understand that the world that's around them. So this book of records, it serves as a significant cultural, literal influence throughout history. So its teachings in all our histories and our stories has inspired countless works that people will see today. When you look at this book, you'll see countless things and countless arts and countless works, countless literature, music that impact that many have done this. And you see this in Western culture depicting this, what this doctrine is supposed to be, incorrectly. You see it. You can't get around it. But you see, the Bible, even today, has been translated in numerous languages. It's being read and studied by billions of people throughout history, making this, the Bible is one of the most significant books of records in human history. This is without error. Meaning, I'm just speaking, but you have many different versions of Bibles which is in error. This is what I say. This is what I hold to, and I can show you even other books that do this. So the point is, what about the book of Jasher? What about the book of Jasher? We want to show you something. I want to look at this really close. We're going to see this over here in Esther. I want to show you something in the book of Esther, and we want to look at something real close. Esther, we're going to look at chapter 8, and we're going to look at verse 13. Make sure we wrote everything down. Make sure we kept everything that what we needed. Because as I said, the deeper we go, the more we're going to learn. The more we learn, the better understanding you're going to have once we get to everything. It says the copy of the writings for a commandment was given to every providence, was published unto all people, including that the Jews should be ready against the day to avenge themselves on their enemies. Did anybody understand that? I'm going to ask the question again. Did anybody understand that? Did everybody understand what this was talking about? This is yes or no, just yes or no, did you understand it? If you understand it, I'm going to ask you, what did it say? And I appreciate that. Because I guarantee somebody might say, yeah, and I'm going to just ask them, can they explain it? So everybody's saying no. So we got a lot of no's coming up. And it's no problem here, but we want to make sure people is sitting there on what's going on. I want you just to show you anything, because it's no disrespect on either way. But what we're going to do, we don't want people to fake the funk. That's the problem. But I'm gonna show you what the issue is and where the correction is. It's right here, all in the Bible. So what we're doing, we're looking at something, and we have enough people saying this, and now people are gonna sit there and they say they knew it. I still got something else that'll nail you to the cross. Because some people like to sit there and play know-it-alls on what's going on. But the best thing to do, if you don't know, you don't know. But where it helps you at is what we just looked at. Meaning this. When you look at this, I want you to pay attention to something. I want you to look at something. We're going to clear this page. But I'm going to go back into this page. And I want you to see something. And I want you to pay real close attention right here to this. I want you to pay close attention. It says, and that the Jews should be ready against the day to avenge themselves on the enemies. It's interesting. The reason this is so interesting is because it's talking about this here. It's talking about this here. It's actually saying the same thing. It's telling you the same thing. And let me get back to this. Let me get back to that. We got to get back to the same part on what we was doing originally. We want to sit there and see. We want to go back to Joshua 10 and 13. It's not this written in the book of Jasher. That's why we want that. This is why I want that. This was for that purpose. Because it's telling you, this is telling you the same thing. They wanted the same. Meaning this, and what Jasher is an untranslated word. So everybody can write that down and put that in there. Jasher is untranslated. The reason why Jasher is untranslated is still telling you in Paleo what it actually means. So Paleo, I want you to write it down. So Jasher means upright one. You can mean upright. You can mean just. And some use just one. I have other Hebraism to tell me the same thing. Just one, which is still acceptable and understandable in the Bible. But it's the upright one. So this is why it's saying, it says the Jews shall be ready against the day to avenge themselves to their enemies. Is not this written in the book of the upright? That's what that's saying. Is not this written in the book of the upright? That's all that's saying. In the book of the upright, in the book of the just. It's telling you the same thing. Let's look at something. Let's pull something down and let's look at something a little bit closer. And we're going to find this over in 2 Kings chapter 22, verse 8. Because that's all Jasher mean. That's all they actually mean. So is it in the book? Is it in the book of the upright? Yeah, it's always been there. It's never been anywhere else. So this is the problem. So verse 8, it's got Hilkiah. Hilkiah the high priest said to Shaphan the scribe, and he had found the book of the law at the house of the Lord, and Hilkiah gave the books of Shaphan, and he read it. Yeah, exactly, for the book of the upright, because that's the book of the law. You'll see this again where it tells you in 2 Chronicles the same thing. And we'll find that same thing, 2 Chronicles chapter 34, verse 14 and 15. 34, 14, and 15. It's going to tell you the same thing. But I want you to see what it's talking about when it's talking about the book of the upright. That's what it is. It's just telling you about the Bible. And that's why when they sitting there saying, is not this written in the book of the upright? Yeah, it's written in the book of remembrance. It's written in this book. And it says, when they brought out the money and they brought it unto the house of the Lord, Hilkiah, the priest, found the book of the law, exactly what it's telling you, in the book of the law of the Spirit of God and given by Moses. Verse 15. And Hilkiah answered and said, Shaphan, scribe, I have found the book of the law, which is the book of the upright. The house of the Lord, Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan, saying the same thing, saying the same identical thing. The same identical thing. And what they got to do, they got to avenge something. They looking to avenge something on what he was doing. So we'll find this also in Judges. We see something in Judges chapter 14. We're going to go through a little bit of information, and we're going to look at some background information to understand what's going on. And then I'm going to share some information with you about this guy, Samson. Samson, I'm going to share information about him to where we can understand what was going on here. So here it says, but his father and mother knew not that that it was the Lord. They knew not that it was the Lord that sought the occasion against the Philistines. They didn't know it was the Lord that was seeking the occasion against the Philistines, which they was having Samson, and all this information was going on. He said, for the time the Philistine had dominion over Israel. So if you read this about Samson, Samson wanted to marry this woman who was a Philistine. His parents objected to this marriage, but if you look at Samson was insisting that he wanted to get this woman, he would ask them to get this woman for him. But the father and mother did not know that this was the occasion that was sought against by the Lord. This was the Lord was doing this. They didn't know that. Let's jump down to verse 18. But if you want to read it, read the whole story about this. But I'm just giving you mainly what it's all talking about. I may end up giving away also, but read it, and you can get if you want to get all the nooks and crannies and the goodies, read the whole thing. And then verse 18 it says, and the men of the city said unto him on the seventh day before the sun went down. You see this? Before the sun went down. Before the sun went down. You see how he's talking here. But we're gonna find out something. And they went out and they said, what is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, if you had not plowed my heifer, ye have not found my riddle. Exactly what the point was. Because the thing was Samson and his wife at the wedding feast, he actually posed a riddle to these Philistines, and they could not solve it. So they threatened Samson's wife and her family, and eventually she ended up revealing the answer to the riddle because he ended up telling it to her. So Samson said, if you have not plowed my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. So the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. But then you see later on where Ascalon killed 30 men and took of their apparel and gave them changes and clothes of raiment and was in a plain riddle. But actually, I'm going to tell you what, let's go down to some of this. Besides saying all that, because it's all right here anyway. And it says, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him and went down unto Ascalon and slew 30 men of them and took their spoils and gave them changes of garment unto them, expounded on the riddle. They expounded the riddle, and it angered and was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. Exactly what was going on. Exactly what was happening. But this is an example to where you see what was going on. But the example was them avenging themselves based on their enemies. This was avenging themselves based on the enemy. You'll see another one when we look at Saul. And you see this back in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 7. 18, verse 7. You see it here. And you see what's going on here. And it says, and the woman answered one another, comparing, they played and said, Saul hath slain his thousands and David his 10,000. They played. You see what they're doing? But you'll see something. But this still made Saul mad. And Saul was very wroth, and saying displeased him, and said that they ascribed unto David 10,000, and unto me you have ascribed but 1,000. And what can he have more but the kingdom? These are big issues. So you read this Saul's jealousy towards David because they talking about how he returned and he's killing the Philistines, giant of Goliath, but the women of Israel singing David's honor and saying Saul slain 1,000, but David 10,000. They only slain one man. David slain one guy, and you see what they saying. And they played in doing this. But you can see it still angered Saul. These are things we have to pay attention to, we have to look at. Let's look at something in verse 9. You see, because it just that much, it says, and Saul eyed David from that day forward. He eyed David. For that one statement. And you can see that Saul tried to kill David several times. But David escapes. Eventually, David became king of Israel, and he defeated many of Israel's enemies, including the Philistines. But the best example is one who, how shown was faithful he was to God, and he was persecuted by his enemies, eventually avenged themselves by trusting in God's protection and guidance. That was the point of this. Same thing you'll see in 2 Samuel. You see the same thing. And you're going to see this constantly playing where they can avenge themselves, and you see what goes on in 21. 21, and we're going to go through some of it, but we're not going to go through the whole thing because we'll take it all the way down to verse 14. But it says, and there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, and in year after year, David inquired unto the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God answered it, and it is for Saul, for his bloody house became a slew of the Gibeonites. So this was going on. But besides getting into a lot of that what was going on, if you read about this famine, it lasts for 3 years, and during that 3 years, it was the reign of King David. But when David inquired into the Lord, this famine went on because of this blood god. And Saul in his house, who had killed the Gibeonites, David asked the Gibeonites what was the compensation for that, because David gonna pay the compensation for it, and they asked for 7 Saul's descendants to be handed over to where they can be hanged. And that's what David did. So 7 of the men was hanged, and this was an example of a group of people that was wrong. And the army was being avenged in themselves, and they helped the people that was going on. So the Bible used the term upright. That's what the Bible uses. It uses upright to describe individuals who are righteous, and they are virtuous, and they have a virtuous conduct and character. So the same understanding, the same way we need to see it, upright, is occurring as you see throughout the Bible. The upright, the righteous, throughout the Bible is often translated with the behavior of the wicked and the unrighteous. There's always a contrast there. So the best example, actually, we can go somewhere. Let's see. We'll go over here to Psalms. We're gonna go to Psalms 33. We're gonna look at this verse 1. You see this right here. It says, "Rejoice in the Spirit of God, O ye righteous, for praise is comely for the upright." Comely is for the upright. So this is part of what's going on, the praise of the upright. So this is urged. So the best example, again, we can find another. It's a lot of examples you can find in here. We can find one in Proverbs chapter 2. We're going to look at verse 7 and 8. The same thing. You're going to see the same identical thing as this. It says, "He lay up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is the buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths and doctrine of the teaching, and preserveth the way of his saints." This is what he does. This is what he does. He's the buckler of them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths and the judgment. Is not this written in the book of the upright? Yes, it's right in the book, because this is the book of Jasher. That's all he's saying. But people have mixed this up, and people sit there, and now they develop books, which it shows you again how much people will lie to you, and they'll tell you that book is true. This is crazy. This is 100% craziness. That's why it's so important when you hear other elders telling you, it's so important to watch who you learn from. But still, no matter what, a lot of people still want to learn from other people because they're thinking they're getting something that's good, that's tangible. That's why we say it's easy for you to disattach from us and go to them and just learn there, and you do whatever you need to do. Because if you mix in doctrine, you mix in doctrine. If you mix in doctrine with false doctrine, with true doctrine, I promise you, you are not getting in. No way. That I promise you. Because he will not take he will not like his doctrine mixed, and he's not going to have it mixed. So if you decide you want to mix the doctrine thinking, well, I can still hold on to these two, you're wasting your time. I can tell you right now, you will bust hell wide open. He's not here to play games, but people always think their own way. This is why I sit there. This is why I talk the way I talk, because there's nothing holding you between you and me. Nothing holds us. But the thing is, the only thing I need to show you is what the truth is. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But then if you want to sit there and you want to hold on to a lie, then you hold on to that lie, but go where the lie is. Because I don't like where people want to mix doctrine. I don't want people who coming over here who getting a little truth, and then you going over there and you getting a whole lot of lies, and then you think you can blend them. I just care not for it. That's why I talk the way I talk. So I want everybody to understand why I stand the way I stand and where I'm coming from. So you see these examples where it shows you right here where you get this and we get this understanding. And we'll see again, I'm going to show you something in Psalms. Thinking about it. In Psalms, I believe it's 125. I believe it's 125. Yeah, it is. Psalms 125. It says, do good, O Spirit of God, unto those that be good, including to them that are upright in their hearts. Upright. You're going to always focus on that because you got to be upright about what you're doing. And he's telling you right here. It says, comparing, turn aside unto their crooked ways, and the Spirit of God shall lead them forth with the workers of iniquity, but peace shall be upon Israel, the ones that are upright. So we see this. So we find out about this testimony. We find out about this understanding that upright is present. These are examples of what's going on. How we to understand what the Bible is all about. Because the Bible is about the upright. The Bible is about the ones who are looking for righteousness. It's in the book of Jasher, which is the book of the upright. It's clear as day, but most people sitting there now, they're sitting there saying, is not this written in the book of Jasher, but not knowing that that's a Hebrew word telling you it's the book of the upright. Book of the Joshua. Real simple, but the main thing is they jump off on another tangent. And then you get all this false doctrine and people, well, that's okay on this one. Yeah, that's okay for you. If that's okay for you, then you go run to that. That's where we want you to stay. And I don't say that being cool about it. I say that, but I mean that. Because we don't need where people do things differently. It says this also when you're looking at 1 Timothy chapter 3, but we're going to look at verse 2. It says a bishop must be blameless and a husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, giving hospitality after teach. But why are we using that? Because Paul even said this person needs to be blameless, a husband of one wife, but his behavior is hospitality after teach. You see these terms, blameless, the term blameless, offering the way you see that it's translated into upright. That's why I went there. They have to be blameless, upright. This is what that's showing you. That's showing you to where that's a character, that's a conduct that they have. Overall, the understanding of the upright, it refers to these individuals as righteous, wise in their conduct and character, their behavior, or it'll be wicked and unrighteous. Is always associated with those things that you see. So when you look over here, you look at Joshua chapter 10, verse 13, it tells you it's not this written in the book of Jasher, in the book of the upright. It's not that written in there. It's not this there. And as it says the sun stood still. The sun stood still. We have to remember what similarities and everything are and what we need to understand all the time. But most of us never sit there and look at what was happening there. 2 Samuel chapter 1:18. I want to show you something here also. 1:18. And you see it here. That's why I wanted, because that's the second time you'll see it. It says he bade them teach the children of Judah. And he's telling you, I'm sorry, because it's comical. It's almost comical. He bade them teach the children of Judah, use of the bow, these elders. It says, remember, it is written in the book of the upright, in the book of the law. I'm sorry. This is, but you see it's right here. But you see it's clear right here. You teach them. Okay. I'm going to see, do everybody see what I see? The reason why I have such an issue with this, I'm going to show you, I'm going to ask you, and I want you to put in it, do you see what I see? Don't lie and say you don't, you see it and you don't see it. But just, if you see it, just say you see it. If you don't, then I get it. Okay, he says, he bade them to teach the children of Judah in use of the bow. He says, remember, it is written in the book of Jasher. So, what I want you to understand is this. If he's telling you, if it's in the book of Jasher, if it's in this book of Jasher, then the book has to be there. You follow me? The book has to be in there. But it's the book of the upright. It's the book of the law. So you don't have to make another book. Everybody understand where I'm coming from? I don't know. I don't know. It gets me. It gets me sometimes, and it boggles me. It boggles me many times to where we try to find out where people are coming from, but yeah, these issues. So we understand what was going on here, and we get what was happening here. But the thing is as you continually learn and you learn Scripture, you learn about what's going on, always remember, we say this consistently, watch who you learn from. We constantly tell you this. Watch who you learn from. And the same people, they're going to sit there like, oh, no, I'm on what. Then what you need to do is just find you somewhere else to dwell. Because all you're going to do is put yourself in a lot of trouble. This is all you're going to do. And this is why it's so important to where you watch what you're doing. Because when you don't watch what you're doing, I promise you, you're going to have a problem. You are going to have a problem. So with that, we hope that most people, they understood what went on here. And as we went through so people can get what's happening. And the same thing is, I'm going to be going in Zoom for a hot second, and we take care of any questions that might arise. But other than that, hopefully everybody understand where it is coming from. So the book of the upright, you already have it. The book of Jasher, it's already the book. It's the entire book. The book of the upright. It's the book of the law. But people will tell you, I read Hebrew, I write Hebrew, I got all this. They tell you all these things. They tell you all these crazy things. But I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. So with that, if you guys end up refreshing, you can actually see the link in the description where you can go into the Zoom. So we'd be more than happy to take any questions based on that. Other than that, I say until this weekend, hopefully that everybody understood what went on. Hopefully you understand the book of Jasher, the physical books of Jasher, is a bold-faced lie. Understand that. Because the book of Jasher is already the book, because it's the book of the upright. I don't know what else to say there, but hopefully each and every person understood what went on. So until next time, I say to each and every person, shalom.